Hello, everybody. It is Fraud Watch Friday. Welcome back. Glad to have you. And today's topic is robocalls. So I don't know if anybody who likes robocalls, I certainly don't, but we're going to be exploring how to deal with them, why they're annoying, of course, but also the threat and the downside of robocalls. So to help me and to explain this, because they have looked into this and have some great advice, are two of our great volunteers. I'm going to bring them on now. Hello, guys. How's things going today?
Hey, Bruce.
It's going great.
All right.
Good
So
morning.
to explain robocalls, we've got James Wilson, and he is in Tacoma. And so he's going to be giving us the rundown here. And James has been volunteering with the Floodwatch Network for over a year, and he's got a background in education, so that's going to be really helpful. And then also back with us is our cyber expert and Floodwatch Network lead, Dave Morrow. Dave is up in Bellingham. So, Dave, you are going to be showing us some call blocking technology later on. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll be talking a little bit about some of the tools that you can use to maybe block these things or at least cut down on them. And I'll demo one of them to show just kind of in general how they operate.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that because I have not tried this out myself. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it works. So, James, you're going to take it away. Let me take myself off screen and we'll put the presentation up. And then I'll see you guys at the end and we'll wrap this up. So take it away, James.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce. Want to say hello and welcome to everyone for our Fraud Watch Friday session on robocall scams. I'm James, and as Bruce let you know, I'm a volunteer with AARP Fraud Watch Network. We want to present some valuable information to you that will help you recognize and avoid robocall scams. While we have valuable tips and resources, I'm not an expert in law enforcement, and I encourage you to follow up with the experts if you end up being a victim of fraud or other crime. Hopefully we'll help you be able to avoid that, though. If you're like me, you're kind of hardwired and you remember the days when people raced to answer a ringing telephone. And if you didn't get to it in time, you didn't know who called or the number the call was made from. Then along came answering machines, and then caller ID, and the ability to screen calls. Now most people have caller ID and voicemail. Really great technology, but all is not as it seems. Hey, I think I hear a phone ringing. Let's see who's calling.
This is Becky, your patient advocate working closely with Medicare. Currently, Medicare is offering precautionary genetic cancer screening nationwide. It is recommended that anyone over the age of 50 be tested. These tests help to detect the early signs of cancer and are covered by your insurance. If you do not act soon, then Medicare may label you as ineligible for coverage. Please press 1 to speak to a testing specialist or press 9 to be placed on our do not call list.
Gosh, I wonder how many of you have received calls, the same call from Becky there. Most robocall scams are made using automated dialing equipment. The next graphic you're going to see is from the Federal Trade Commission that shows how it works. Computers dial millions of numbers and either leave messages to engage you to call back or take action, or they hope to get a live answer and then transfer you to talk to a con man. It's a numbers game. The technology is cheap, and the scammers only need a very small success rate to make a lot of money. Here we're going to be showing you a brief video featuring Chris Hagnergy. Chris is an information security expert and social engineer. He's also a professor at the University of Arizona. He's going to be demonstrating spoofing for our AARP Washington State Director, Doug Shadle. And to me, this is an eye-opening video.
Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm looking up, just as an example, since we're in Orlando, the Orlando Police Department.
Right.
And I'm grabbing a publicly known number. So I see this number here. I'm putting it into my spoofing software. I'm saving it, and now I'm calling you. As simple as that is, that took all of 60 seconds. And what will happen is the number that comes up on your phone will be the literal Orlando Police Department's phone number.
Okay.
If you were to hang up and call that number back, you would get the Orlando Police Department.
Well, let's do that.
Okay, so
Let me do that real quick. So what I'm doing is I'm calling back the number you just gave me, spoofing the Orlando Police Department, see if it really is the Orlando Police Department.
You have reached the Orlando Police Information Desk. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911.
So that's it.
And this is an attack that happens. So people will say, how do I know if you're from there? The attacker says, okay, look, hang up, call that number back. You'll hit a main switchboard. You can't get directed to me because I have an internal extension. I'll call you back in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Person hangs up, they call, they get the message you just heard.
Right.
Now the attacker calls back and it just seems legitimate.
Can you look up the Internal Revenue Service and try that?
Yes, you can. Just seeing if that one comes up.
What is this number now?
The White House.
This is the White
I'm
House.
calling you from the White House.
Okay. Let's see if we call that number back, what happens. Okay, so now I'm dialing the number you just called.
Thank you for calling the White House comment line.
And here's the part of the attack that helps build the trust is because I can call you to make it look like from any number. And then if you were to call that number back, you get the real office.
Yeah.
And if I call you back again from that number, you now go, okay, yeah, this must be RIP because I just called it and it is the IRS.
Yeah, so scammers try to make the number look like it's a local number to entice you into answering. Within a week's period of time, I received 2 calls from my own number. And to me, that was a real spooky spoof. I didn't answer. Dave is going to tell you a little bit more about robocalls, and he's going to give you some information about some call blocking services. And while we encourage you to consider using a call blocking service, we don't endorse any particular service. So, Dave, take it away there.
Sure. Thanks, James. So, volume of robocalls is really kind of unimaginable. Everybody has stories about them. Now they basically have, the FTC says they surpass, there's more than 5 billion calls a month made for robocalls. And they're making a lot of progress in trying to cut those down by the carriers, AT&T and Verizon and those guys. But it's difficult. It's difficult technically, and it's difficult because some robocalls are legitimate. I mean, your doctor may call you I get doctor appointments all the time calling me to say, hey, your doctor appointment's in 2 days, blah, blah, blah. You may get reminders or warnings from your local city or county government if there's an emergency, snow days for your kids, things like that. So there's some legitimate reasons, and sorting out why those, how to sort those out between the ones that are bad and the ones that are legitimate that we want is part of the difficulty. But the many of the calls that we get are from scammers wanting to separate you from your money. Robocalls can lead to almost any type of scam. One thing about scammers is they are endlessly inventive in ways and things to do. And so they can have fake sweepstakes calls. They can have home repair cons. They can do identity theft. They can do tech support scams. I mean, the list is really kind of endless. So what will happen is oftentimes a robocall may direct you to call a number it gives you, or it may ask you to press a number to speak to somebody. The problem with doing that is that if you do it, sometimes you are connected to somebody in a call center in a boiler room who likely will try to get money from you or get other important, your personally identifiable information, things like that from you. So the best tactic or the best practice is if you get called, don't call them back. Don't press any number, not even if the number says you can opt out by pressing 0 or 9 or whatever. Don't do that because that will still give you problems. So there's a variety of services you can use to block robocalls. And what we've got here on this slide is 4 of the ones that are probably most popular that you may have heard of. and they all operate fairly much the same. They are pretty much, you install them on your cell phone or your mobile phone, and they either interact with your phone or they intercept the call and filter it. They all will take your call, the caller ID, and look against a list of known spoofed phone numbers. And if it matches, then they'll give you a warning. Now, one of the ones we're going to, or the one we're going to talk about today is NomoRobo, and it's a robocall program that I have on my phone, and I can demo to you how it works. So what happens is, if you go to the NomoRobo website and download the application, it's very easy to install. You basically just follow the prompts. You enter your phone number. You decide if you want the free version for a couple of weeks and then pay some money, or you test drive it, or if you want to go ahead and pay for it, and it's like $1.99 a month, or you can pay by the year or by every 6 months. And then it'll set itself up, and you'll see this screen. This basically says that when a call comes in, it's going to be screened against a entire list of known robocalls, and you see the numbers in the block list there. One of the things about NomoRobo and the other ones is that they refresh their numbers on their call blocking lists many times a day. NomoRobo says they try to do it every 15 minutes or so, but they realize that sometimes you're not going to be online. You're not going to have NomoRobo up to refresh the list, so its current list is on your phone. So every now and then, if you opt to allow them to send you notifications, they'll send you a little notification that says, open your NomoRobo and refresh your screen. So when you press refresh, it basically goes out and picks up the brand new numbers that have been added to the block list since the last time you refreshed. And then you have a fresh, clean version on your block list of the most up-to-date numbers that have been reported to them as being scammers. Now, one of the things NomoRobo lets you do is you have an option. You can either identify the phone call as a robocaller and still get it to show up on your screen, or you can block it entirely and have it sent to voicemail. And again, that's one of the options you'll get when you sign up for it. And you can change it. As you just saw, all you got to do is just change it like you change any other option on your mobile device. Another thing that Robocaller allows you to do, now I haven't set it up on my phone because I have multiple other blockers that I test, but you can have a spam blocker. All of us gets these text messages that are now also kind of replacing, in many cases, robocalls. And they're just as bad as spam emails or spam phone calls or robocalls. And so there's a blocker that you can have that it tells you how to. And now this is on my iPhone, so but they give you the instructions how to do it. This NomoRobo and at least one or two of the other blocker programs also have some privacy protection and things that interact with your browser. In this case, it interacts with Safari on my iPhone, and it will help look for ads, pop-up ads. It'll help block things that, information is requested by the website you go to with the browser that would compromise your privacy, that has privacy protectors. So you can turn that on, and you see there, that's how you enable it. One of the things that NomoRobo has that I haven't seen in any of the others is the ability to, on the fly, check a phone number that you get if you're not quite sure if it's spam or not, and it doesn't advertise as spam or a robocall. You can put the number in, and it'll tell you. So it has an example here. This number, if this were a number that called me and I put it in, it'll tell me, yep, it's a spam call. It's been tagged as and been used by someone trying a debt reduction scam. If you want to, you can allow the number by pressing that button. I'm not going to do it on my phone. And then one of the good things it has here is it'll have a transcript and a recording, so you can actually listen to it, just like the slide we had earlier. And in this case, it's Donna from Card Services. I always say Card Services, which is, kind of a tip-off. So this is a good thing that you have available to you on Nomo Robo. And the next is the settings. This basically tells you, the number that you've protected. And this is my phone number, so please don't call me. It also allows you to have stale block lists. If this is where that notification will pop up occasionally and tell you to reopen Nomo Robo and update your list. And then there's known robocallers. If you have some robocallers, if you allow them through when you're blocking, for some reason, if you know that you want to talk to them or you want them for whatever reason, I really can't figure out why this would be an option, but it is. This is allowed. So this is one of the robocall programs that are available to you, and it's really a good program. But we can't endorse any of them. But this is a program that's really helpful to you, and as others, RoboKiller and others are also pretty helpful and pretty good programs to have. So James is going to tell us a little bit about some of the do's and don'ts for robocalls, some of the things you should do, good tips, and some of the things you should avoid. So James, it's all to you.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Very, very useful information you gave us there. On the do's and don'ts, if the phone rings, one of the best things you can do is look at it and see if you recognize the number or caller. And if you don't, just don't answer the phone. If it's somebody that really needs to get a hold of you, most likely they're going to leave a message on your voicemail. When in the call that we listened to that Becky was making on the Medicare scheme, she gave two numbers to press at the end, one to talk with somebody and one to opt out. If you do take a call, don't call any number or press any keys that they ask you to press for any reason. Now, for some of the do's, if you do answer a call and you realize it may be a robocall, feel free to hang up. You're not obligated to continue on with that call and to let them try to engage you. So just feel free to hang up and do that immediately upon recognizing it's a robocall. You can always add your number to the do not call registry and consider one of the call blocking service apps that are available. And Dave shared with us, I think 4 that are available, and they're probably more available than those 4. And if you get a robocall scam, report it. They may not be able to do anything about that particular scam, but that helps them keep a record, and maybe they can, the authorities can end up tracking down and catching the people making those scams. So pretty much wraps up our presentation for today. I want to thank all of you for joining us and hope that this has been informative and helpful for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Bruce here to kind of close us out.
Great. Thank you, James and Dave. This is very informative for people, I think, because robocalls can go beyond annoying and ensnare you in a scam. The best way to avoid scams is not to engage with the scammer. If you never get the scam call, then you can't be scammed. So that's kind of the theory behind avoiding scams. And I also want to mention, we did a whole campaign on this last year. That was where the videos came from. And I wanted to mention something that we are doing here in Washington State, and it's our tip-offs to rip-offs campaign. And you may have heard about it last year, but it's ongoing. And we have our website here that is arp.org/tip-offs, and you can see it there. And if you look down in the left-hand corner of the graphic, you can see that we've got quite a few communities in Washington, and we are tracking, along with our partner Nomo Robo, who is helping us with this. tracking what the top calls coming into each community are. So you can go to that page, and if you live in Bellingham, you can see the top 5 calls that are coming into Bellingham, whether it's a Medicare scam. Publishers Clearinghouse is hot right now, but there's all kinds of different scams, but they sort of tend to come and go with the seasons or what's in the headlines. If Publishers Clearinghouse is doing a drawing, which they were 2 weeks ago, I think, all of a sudden the Publishers Clearinghouse scam people who call you pretending to be Publishers Clearinghouse and saying that you've won a prize. And it's usually not first prize because they know you'll be suspicious. I mean, it's usually a second or third prize, still for a significant amount of money. And that's how they get you. So anyway, go to arp.org/tipoffs, and you can see what's going on in the robocall world in your town. And so with that, I just want to mention that we do have our Floodwatch Network helpline, which is staffed by volunteers. Dave, I know, has volunteered for this. I don't know if you have, James, but it's a phone number that you can call and talk to a trained Floodwatch volunteer. And that number is 877-908-3360. And that's completely free. It's a real person that you can talk to and explain your situation, whether you think maybe you've been approached by a scam, or if you have a loved one perhaps who's involved in a scam, you can get advice from people who are experts in fraud prevention. And then let me mention our ARP Fraudwatch website, which is just a website that you can go that's got a ton of information on it, arp.org/Fraudwatch Network. And it's just a great resource. So I would recommend that. Finally, and I guess you're learning we got a ton of resources, but here's one more. If you would like to have a presentation for your group, you can get a presentation that's kind of similar to this one, but it's a general fraud presentation. So it's not focused on robocalls. It's a generalized how to deal with fraud, how to avoid fraud, what the biggest frauds are. And volunteers like Dave and James present those to you live, and it's about an hour long overview of fraud and how to avoid it. And that's something you can have for your group, whether it's a church group or a community group, or if you live in a assisted living or something, that is available. And all you have to do is go to arp.org/WA Speakers Hub, and you'll see how to send a message and get a presentation for your group if you would find that valuable. So maybe that's enough information for one day. But I learn. I do a lot of these presentations myself, and I always learn something. So Dave and James, I definitely appreciate the work that you've done on robocalls, and thank you for presenting it to us today. Is there anything that we haven't mentioned, or any last words you have for us, or do you think we covered it?
Well, the only thing I would say is just folks should always remember that they control this whole thing, and the only way these guys go away is if you don't answer, or if you answer and you realize it's a robocall or a scam and you hang up immediately. The longer they keep you on the phone, the more likely they think they are to be able to get you to do whatever they want you to do, give up your money or your information.
Yeah, that's always the case. Is people think they're going to spot the scam coming, or that they're smart enough to outwit the con artists. But people don't realize. I mean, obviously some are not very good, but some are real professionals who have been doing this for a long time. They've tried out 1,001 ways to scam you, and they found the one that works. And sometimes it can be very persuasive, especially if you're in the right place in your life where you're vulnerable to a particular scam. So, we always say the best way to protect yourself is to be educated about what the scams are and see them coming, because then when you're approachable, and you can say, oh, that's a robo scam because I saw a presentation like this. So please spread the word about the Fraudwatch Network. Let your friends and family know if you think they would benefit from this. James, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah. Every once in a while I hear hear somebody tell me that they engage these callers, or they call the number to engage them and take up their time, and that's not really a good thing to do, simply because, well, just one thing off the top of my head that I know about is if they record it and they get you to say yes, they can take that clip out and they can use it, having you verbally making a commitment to some financial transaction. So the best thing is if you recognize one of these calls, either don't answer or hang up right away. Do not engage.
Yeah, I'd say also the other thing is when you answer or when you engage, you're telling the con world that you're a live person with a real number who will answer the phone. So you may annoy that one person, and maybe you've wasted a few minutes of their time, but it's going to get you on lists that are sold. And the one things that these big boiler rooms that Dave was talking about with the phone number, they are looking for people who will answer the phone, and those lists get sold. And if you're somebody who answers the phone, you're just going to get more calls. So that's also a downside of engaging them. But if you enjoy doing it, I guess. But it's such a huge thing that there's a lot of law enforcement trying to stop this, and organizations like ours, but those guys just keep calling. So the best thing you can do is protect yourself and protect your loved ones and your friends by being informed. So I think that's good information for today. Thank you again, Dave and James. And I'm going to put the Floodwatch network phone number for the helpline and the website up. And thank you for joining us. Join us next Friday, same time, same place. Dave is going to be back answering your questions about anything related to cybercrime or cyber safety or online crime, how to protect your email, how to protect your bank account, anything that has to do with connecting your devices to the internet and online fraud. So if you have a question for Dave, let us know in the comments, and we will answer it for you next Friday. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay away from fraud. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.